July of 2026, BMW recalled 744,000 vehicles. Not for airbags, not for brakes, for the starter motor, the component that turns the engine over when you press the button. In the mild version of the failure, the car does not start. In the rare version, it catches fire. 318,000 of those vehicles are in the United States. 9 BMW models, plus the Toyota Supra, which uses BMW running gear. The X3 alone accounts for roughly 2/3 of them. This is not the first time. It is the fourth wave of the same defect in under a year. And fire is not new territory for this company. Set the airbags aside. Every manufacturer was caught in that one, and it belonged to a supplier, not to any single brand. What is left when you remove the airbags from BMW's recall history is a pattern. The largest recalls this company has issued in the last decade keep returning to the same word: fire. Start with how BMW arrived in America. The company is old. It was founded in 1916, building aircraft engines, and it survived the years after the First World War by making motorcycle engines, farm equipment, household goods, and railway brakes. But BMW of North America, the entity that actually sells and services these cars in the United States, was not established until 1975. That same year, production began on the E21, the first 3 series. It reached North American showrooms as a 1977 model. So the American recall record for this brand effectively begins in the late 70s. Before that, there was no BMW subsidiary in the country to issue one. Which means the story we are about to follow is not ancient history. It is roughly one human lifetime, and almost all of it happened in the last 10 years. Go to Christmas Day 2016, Guildford, Surrey, in the south of England. A man named Narayan Gurung was driving with his wife. Ahead of them, a BMW had broken down in the road. It was dark. According to reporting by the BBC, the BMW had suffered an electrical fault that caused it to stall, and that same fault had disabled its brake lights. A stalled car with no lights on an unlit road. Gurung swerved to avoid it. His Ford Fiesta hit a tree. He was killed. BMW issued a recall after that crash. It covered 36,410 cars, petrol models only. The BBC consumer program Watchdog investigated. Its finding was that the same electrical fault could affect a much wider range of vehicles than the recall covered. One owner told the program that his 3 series had cut out completely while he was driving in December 2016. He said BMW found the fault the next day. A cable had burned out, and no current was passing through the fuse box. He said he was allowed to take the car home, with no warning not to drive it. After the investigation aired, BMW extended the recall. The final figure was 312,000 vehicles in the United Kingdom. The 1 Series, the 3 Series, the Z4 and X1 models, both petrol and diesel, built between March 2007 and August 2011. From 36,000 to 312,000. The difference was a television investigation. The underlying fault in that campaign is worth naming because it recurs. The battery cable connector and the fuse box terminals could degrade over time. Resistance rises at a connection carrying the full electrical load of the car. Heat builds at that point. Eventually, the connection fails. When it fails, the car loses electrical power. The engine stops. The lights stop. It is not a dramatic component. It is a terminal, a piece of metal clamped onto another piece of metal. And it can shut down an entire vehicle at speed. The fires came in waves, and they were large. In 2017, BMW recalled approximately 1.4 million vehicles over fire risk. In 2022, it recalled approximately 1.03 million more, same category of concern. Between them sits the one with a mechanism worth understanding. 2018, the exhaust gas recirculation module. Diesel engines run hot and they produce nitrogen oxides. To reduce them, engineers route a portion of the exhaust back into the intake to be burned again. That exhaust is extremely hot, so it passes through a cooler first, a small heat exchanger with engine coolant running through it. In the affected engines, that cooler could leak. Coolant escapes into a passage carrying exhaust gas at high temperature. Glycol enters the intake, deposits form. In the wrong conditions, the mixture ignites and the fire starts inside the intake manifold. The recall began at roughly 480,000 vehicles in the United States. It ended at approximately 1.6 million worldwide. Model years 2010 through 2017 with 4- and 6-cylinder diesel engines. A device fitted to make the engine cleaner became the reason the engine burned. Fire is the loudest failure. It is not the only one. In 2013, BMW recalled around 76,000 vehicles for a loss of power-assisted braking. The brake booster on these cars is driven by a vacuum pump. The pump needs oil. In the affected engines, a seal disc could shift position and block the oil from reaching it. Without oil, the pump runs abnormally and the vacuum fails. The brakes still work, but the assistance is gone, and the pedal effort required to stop the car rises sharply, without warning, at whatever moment the pump gives up. 11 years later, the same category returned at a completely different scale. Across 2024 and 2025, BMW recalled over 1.5 million vehicles worldwide over a braking system supplied by Continental. The concern was again failure of power brake assist. 1.5 million cars, one supplier. In the same period, BMW recalled 720,796 vehicles in the United States alone over water pumps.
A water pump failure does not cause a crash. It causes overheating, and overheating is how engines are destroyed. 3 separate systems, braking, cooling, starting, all of them in 6 figures or more. Not every BMW recall is enormous. Some of them are almost surgically small, and those are the ones that show how the system actually works. In 2019, BMW recalled 217 vehicles. 205 of them were 330i and 330i xDrive sedans. The rest were Z4s. The problem was inside the engine. Needle roller bearings support the counterbalance shafts, the components that cancel out the vibration a 4-cylinder engine naturally produces. During assembly, those bearings are pressed into place with a specified force. On these engines, the press-in force was lower than specification. A bearing that is not fully seated can allow the counterbalance shaft to work loose. A loose counterbalance shaft destroys the engine. BMW found it because a small number of engines failed. An engineering review was opened, and production records identified exactly which cars had been built during the affected windows. 217 cars out of millions built. Every one of them was located. There is a second example. 201 vehicles across the 2 Series, 3 Series, X3, and X4. The steering gears had not been produced to specification by the supplier. Internal bolts could loosen. If the connection between the servo unit and the housing rack came loose, it would affect handling and control. Technicians found it at the factory. No crashes, no injuries.
201 cars, and the company wrote to every owner. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe. There is a great deal more coming. Then there are the recalls that are strange in themselves. The BMW i3 was the company's first mass-produced electric car. Carbon fiber passenger cell, aluminum chassis, rear-mounted motor. Every single i3 sold in the United States from 2014 through 2018 was recalled. Around 30,000 cars. A complete stop sale was issued. The defect was not in the battery, the motor, or the brakes. Federal testing found that in a frontal crash, a smaller adult in the driver's seat faced a higher risk of neck injury, specifically if that person was not wearing a seatbelt. The car passed its crash standards in every configuration except that one. And that one configuration was enough to pull the entire model off the market until it was resolved. There is a second oddity from 2025. More than 40,000 X3 SUVs were recalled because of the rear door locks. The design is deliberate. Inside a BMW, pulling the interior door handle once unlocks the door. Pulling it a second time opens it. Two actions, so a passenger cannot open a door by accident. On the affected vehicles, a manufacturing error meant a single pull did both. One movement, and the rear door of a moving car is open. One vehicle keeps appearing in these filings, and it is worth counting. The X3 is BMW's mid-size SUV, and by volume, it is one of the company's most important products.
In August 2024, roughly 300,000 X3s were recalled because the luggage rails could detach in a crash. In March 2025, more than 40,000 X3s were recalled for the rear door locks. In December 2025, 36,922 X3s were recalled for steering software. That last one is worth pausing on. The steering torque sensor has two channels. BMW found that if one of those channels malfunctioned while the vehicle was stationary, during startup or in drive mode but not yet moving, the software diagnostics might not detect it correctly. The result, in rare cases, was unintended movement of the steering wheel. BMW's own timeline records the first notable incident on the 22nd of August, 2025. The steering wheel moved unexpectedly during startup at the assembly plant. BMW stated it was not aware of any accidents or injuries connected to it. Then, in 2026, the X3 accounted for roughly 2/3 of the 318,000 vehicles in the American starter recall. Luggage rails, door locks, steering software, starters. 4 campaigns, 4 unrelated systems, 1 model. Return to the fires because they have not stopped. They are happening now. In October 2025, BMW recalled nearly 200,000 vehicles, its own cars and Toyota Supras, over a starter problem. In February 2026, another recall covered 87,394 vehicles that could catch fire while being driven. That same month, BMW announced a global campaign covering approximately 575,000 cars. The mechanism is specific. A starter contains a magnetic switch. Every time the engine is started, that switch closes a high current circuit. Over a large number of start cycles, the switch wears. Metal particles accumulate. Those particles can bridge a gap that is supposed to stay open. The result is a short circuit at the starter and localized overheating. The German Motoring Association, ADAC, described the risk in exactly those terms. Metal abrasion allowing a short in the magnetic switch and overheating at the starter, potentially while driving. There is a reason this failure took years to surface, and it is arithmetic. The wear depends on start cycles, not on mileage. A car driven long distances on the motorway may start twice a day. A car used for short urban trips may start 12 times. 2 identical vehicles built on the same day can be a decade apart in the only measurement that matters here. Modern engines make this worse. Automatic stop-start systems shut the engine off at every traffic light and restart it when the driver lifts off the brake. A component designed around a few tens of thousands of cycles is now being asked to perform hundreds of thousands. The starter did not change. The number of times it is used did. The affected starter relays were produced between July 2020 and July 2022, though some were installed in cars built later. BMW's guidance to owners included one instruction that describes the problem better than any statistic. Do not leave the vehicle running unattended, particularly after using remote start. Do not walk away from your parked car while it is running. By July 2026, the running total across those campaigns had reached 744,000 vehicles. There is a reasonable objection to all of this, and it deserves to be stated. A recall is not proof of a bad car. It is proof that a defect was found and reported. A manufacturer that issues 217 recall letters for 217 cars is a manufacturer whose quality tracking works. The companies that should worry you are the ones with suspiciously quiet records. But the size of the recall still tells you something the paperwork does not. 217 cars means a defect was caught at the level of a production batch. 744,000 cars means a component was in the parts bin for 2 years before anyone noticed. And 1.6 million means it was designed in. There is a pattern in the mechanisms, and it is not about carelessness. The exhaust recirculation cooler existed to reduce emissions. The magnetic switch in a starter exists because engines must be cranked. The counterbalance shafts exist because a 4-cylinder engine vibrates. Every one of these is a component added to solve a problem. Modern cars are built out of solutions stacked on top of each other. Each one is small, each one is well understood on its own, and each one adds a place where heat, current, or pressure can end up somewhere it was not meant to be. Cooler was there to make the engine cleaner. It set the engine on fire. There is one more thing the record shows, and it has nothing to do with engineering. The 217-car recall was found by BMW internally from production data. The 312,000-car recall in Britain was found by a television program. The difference between those two numbers is not technical. It is the difference between a company looking at its own records and a company being looked at. Both of those recalls are in the same file under the same brand within a few years of each other. The system caught one of them by itself. The E21 that arrived in America in 1977 had a carburetor, a mechanical fuel pump, and a starter motor. A modern BMW has that same starter motor. It also has around 100 electronic control units, several kilometers of wiring, and a battery capable of delivering enough current to weld steel. The failure that is recalling 750,000 cars in 2026 is happening in the one component that has been on the car since 1977. Everything else got more complicated around it. Machine and myth. Look under the steel.